It's over, isn't it?
I'm afraid so.
The doorbell rang at 11:47 p.m. Mark Wilson wasn't expecting anyone, especially not this late. His 5-year-old daughter, Emma, had finally fallen asleep after another night of asking when Mommy was coming back. As he peered through the peephole, his heart stopped. Standing on his porch, drenched from the rain, was Sarah, his ex-wife's sister. The woman he hadn't seen since the divorce 3 years ago. The woman who had once been his closest friend before everything fell apart. But it wasn't her unexpected presence that would change his life forever. It was the small suitcase beside her and the envelope clutched in her trembling hands. "I know I'm the last person you want to see," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. "But there's something you need to know about why Jessica really left." If you're wondering what could possibly bring Sarah to Mark's doorstep after all this time, and what secret she's been keeping about her own sister, stay with me, because what happens next will completely transform everything Mark thought he knew about his failed marriage, his daughter's future, and the woman standing before him. Mark stood frozen in the doorway, the cool night air rushing past him into the warmth of the home he'd rebuilt piece by piece since Jessica walked out. For 3 years, he'd been both mother and father to Emma, working remotely as a graphic designer to be there for every school pickup, every nightmare, every skinned knee. 3 years of explaining to a growing child why Mommy didn't live with them anymore. 3 years of unanswered questions. "Sarah, it's almost midnight," he said, his voice low to avoid waking Emma. "Whatever this is about, please." She interrupted, her eyes red-rimmed from either crying or the rain. He couldn't tell which. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Something in her expression made him step aside. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe just the muscle memory of the friendship they once shared. Sarah had been the one who introduced him to Jessica 8 years ago. She had been his best friend's girlfriend first before becoming his sister-in-law before becoming nothing at all. The living room was cluttered with Emma's toys, evidence of their evening routine. Sarah's gaze lingered on a framed photo of Emma from her recent kindergarten graduation, her smile revealing a missing front tooth. "She looks more like Jessica every day," Sarah murmured. Mark felt the familiar tightness in his chest. "Why are you here, Sarah?" After 3 years of radio silence from your entire family, Sarah placed the envelope on the coffee table between them. "I found these last week when I was helping my parents clean out their attic. Jessica made me promise never to tell you, but she took a deep breath. I can't keep this secret anymore. Not after seeing what it's done to Emma."
To you?
Mark stared at the envelope, his name written in Jessica's unmistakable handwriting. "What is this?" "Medical records," Sarah said quietly. "And a letter she wrote to you, but never sent." If you're feeling invested in Mark and Emma's story already, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more content like this. Because what Sarah reveals next will make you question everything about love, sacrifice, and the length someone might go to protect the people they care about. Mark's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside were hospital documents dated 6 months before Jessica left. Diagnosis, stage 3 ovarian cancer, treatment options, survival rates, and beneath it all, a handwritten letter. "My dearest Mark asterisk, by the time you read this, if you ever do, I'll have already left. The doctors gave me options, but all of them end the same way. I've chosen to spare you and Emma the pain of watching me disappear piece by piece. I'd rather you hate me for leaving than break your hearts by dying. I know it's selfish. I know Emma deserves better, but I can't bear the thought of her memories of me being tainted by hospitals and sickness. Asterisk, I've made Sarah promise not to tell you. Please don't blame her. All my love always. Jessica asterisk. Mark looked up, his vision blurred. She's been sick all this time. Where is she now? Is she? She's alive, Sarah said quickly. But that's the second part of why I'm here. She hesitated. The treatments worked better than expected. She's been in remission for almost a year. A year? Mark's voice rose, and he immediately glanced toward Emma's bedroom. She's been cancer-free for a year and didn't think to let me know. To let her daughter know she's afraid, Sarah explained. Afraid you won't forgive her. Afraid Emma won't understand. Afraid the cancer will come back and she'll hurt you all over again. Mark paced the small living room, running his hands through his hair. So why now? Why are you telling me this now? Sarah reached for her phone and pulled up a photo. It showed Jessica in a hospital bed, noticeably thinner, but smiling weakly at the camera. The date stamp was from 2 days ago. Because the cancer is back, Sarah whispered, and this time she's asking for you and Emma. The revelation hit Mark like a physical blow. For 3 years, he'd nursed his anger, constructed a narrative where Jessica had simply abandoned them for a new life, a new start. He'd protected Emma from the truth because he thought the truth was that her mother didn't want her enough to stay. How could he have been so wrong? There's something else you should know, Sarah continued, her voice barely audible. Something I've never told anyone. The weight of what Sarah is about to reveal will leave you speechless. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens when Mark finally comes face to face with a woman who broke his heart for reasons he never could have imagined. Sarah's hands twisted in her lap. I was there the day she got the diagnosis. I went with her to every appointment after that. I watched her make this impossible choice, and I helped her pack her bags when she left you. Mark felt a surge of betrayal. You helped her abandon us. I thought I was helping her protect you, Sarah countered. But that's not what I need to tell you. She took a deep breath. The night before she left, she asked me to promise something else. She made me promise that if she ever went into remission, I would check on you and Emma. Not just once, but regularly. To make sure you were okay. Mark frowned. But you never. I did, Sarah interrupted. For 3 years, I've been watching from a distance. The coffee shop across from Emma's school. I work there part-time just to see her walk in with you every morning. The anonymous donations to her school fundraisers. That was me using the money Jessica left me to take care of her daughter from afar. The children's books that mysteriously arrive on Emma's birthday and Christmas. Jessica picks them out, but I'm the one who leaves them on your porch when you're not looking. Mark sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. All this time she's been loving you both the only way she thought she could. Sarah finished. And all this time I've been. She stopped, color rising to her cheeks. You've been what? Mark pressed. Sarah looked away. I've been falling in love with the man my sister left behind. With the father who rebuilt his life for his daughter. With you, Mark. The confession hung in the air between them as impossible as it was inevitable. Mark stared at Sarah, seeing her for the first time in years. The woman who had been his friend before anything else. The woman who had kept her sister's devastating secret while silently watching over the family Jessica left behind. I shouldn't have said that. Sarah backpedaled. That's not why I'm here. Jessica needs you now. Emma needs her mother. Mark's mind raced. Where is she? Memorial Hospital. She was admitted yesterday when her pain became too severe to manage at home. Mark checked his watch. Almost. 1 a.m. I can't just wake Emma and take her to a hospital in the middle of the night to see the mother she barely remembers. I know, Sarah nodded. That's why I came tonight, to give you time to process this, to decide how to tell Emma. Jessica doesn't expect you to come right away. She just wanted you to know the truth. Finally, Mark stood and walked to the window, looking out at the rain-soaked street. 3 years, he murmured. 3 years of thinking. She just didn't love us enough. She loved you too much, Sarah corrected gently. Too much to let you watch her die. And now Mark turned back to her. Now she might die anyway, and Emma will lose her mother all over again. The next morning brings a conversation that will break your heart and heal it all at once. If you're invested in this family's journey, hit that like button and subscribe now. Dawn broke over the horizon as Mark sat at his kitchen table. The contents of the envelope spread before him. He hadn't slept. How could he? His world had been upended in the space of a few hours. Sarah had left shortly after her confession, insisting she would get a hotel room nearby. Take all the time you need, she'd said. I'll be here when you're ready to talk about what happens next. What happens next? As if there was any clear path forward from this moment. The sound of small feet padding down the hallway alerted him to Emma's awakening. He quickly gathered the papers, returning them to the envelope just as his daughter appeared in the doorway, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Daddy, did you have a sleepover party without me? Emma asked, rubbing her eyes. Mark smiled despite himself. What makes you think that, pumpkin? There's 2 coffee cups? She pointed to the evidence on the counter. And you're wearing yesterday clothes. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. Someone came to visit very late after you were asleep. Emma climbed onto his lap, her small body warm against his chest. Was it the birthday fairy? My birthday's not for 3 more months. Mark took a deep breath. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that her mother didn't abandon her, but thought she was dying? How do you tell a child that the parent she's been missing has been missing her, too, from hospital rooms and through secret gifts? Emma, do you remember when we talked about Mommy? About why she doesn't live with us anymore? Emma nodded solemnly. You said sometimes grown-ups have big problems they need to fix by themselves. That's right. Well, it turns out Mommy has been trying to fix a very big problem all this time. She's been sick, sweetie. Very sick. Emma's eyes widened. Like when I had strep throat and couldn't go to school for a whole week. A bit more serious than that, Mark explained gently. The kind of sick that means you have to stay in the hospital for a long time. Is that where Mommy is? In the hospital? Mark nodded. Yes, and she would really like to see you. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this new information. Is that why she went away? Because she was sick. Yes, baby. She didn't want you to see her so sick, so she thought it would be better to go away until she got better. Did she get better? Mark hesitated. For a while, yes. But now she's sick again, and this time she wants us to be there with her. Emma's next question cut straight to his heart. Does Mommy still love me even though she went away? Mark pulled his daughter closer. Your Mommy has never ever stopped loving you. Not for 1 single second. Can we go see her today? Emma asked, her voice small but hopeful. Yes, Mark decided. We can go see her today. As he helped Emma get dressed, Mark's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Jessica had a rough night. Doctors are with her now. Take your time, but don't wait too long. Asterisk. The hospital corridor seemed endless as Mark walked hand in hand with Emma, Sarah leading the way. They'd stopped at the gift shop where Emma had carefully selected a plush bear wearing a Get Well Soon t-shirt. Now, as they approached Jessica's room, Mark felt Emma's grip tighten. What if she doesn't remember me? Emma whispered. Mark knelt down to her level. She remembers everything about you. Every single day you've been apart has been hard for her. 2. Sarah knocked gently on the door before pushing it open. The room was dimly lit, the blinds drawn against the midday sun. And there, propped up against a mountain of pillows, was Jessica. Mark barely recognized her. The vibrant, laughing woman he'd married had been replaced by someone fragile. Her once thick brown hair now was short, wispy covering on her head. But her eyes, those were the same. And when she saw Emma, those eyes filled with tears. Emma, Jessica breathed, her voice raspy, but filled with wonder. My beautiful girl. Emma hesitated in the doorway, suddenly shy. Mark gave her a gentle nudge. It's okay, sweetheart. Emma took a tentative step forward, then another, until she was standing beside the bed. She held out the bear. I brought you this. His name is Mr. Hugs. He helps me when I'm sick. Jessica accepted the bear with trembling hands. He's perfect. Thank you. Daddy says, you've been sick for a really long time. Emma continued, gaining confidence. Is that why you couldn't come to my birthday parties? Jessica nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Yes, baby. That's why. And I've missed every single one of them. That's okay, Emma said with a simple forgiveness only a child could offer. You can come to my next one. It's going to be unicorn-themed. Jessica looked up at Mark, her eyes asking the question she couldn't voice. Will I be here for her next birthday? Mark moved closer to the bed, his anger from the previous night melting away at the sight of Jessica's suffering. Emma, why don't you show Mommy your missing tooth? Tell her about how the tooth fairy came. As Emma launched into her story, climbing carefully onto the edge of the bed, Mark stepped back to stand beside Sarah in the doorway. Thank you, he whispered, for bringing her back to us, even if it's just for now. Sarah's eyes were fixed on the scene before them, mother and daughter reconnecting as if the years between them were nothing but a brief interruption. I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. You were keeping a promise, Mark acknowledged. I understand that now. What happens in the next few weeks will test this family in ways they never imagined. But the greatest challenge might be what Sarah confessed in that late-night conversation. If you want to know how this story ends, make sure you've subscribed. The days blurred into weeks as their lives reorganized around hospital visits. Emma brought her school projects to show Jessica, curling up beside her mother's bed to read the books that had mysteriously appeared on past birthdays. Mark took a leave of absence from work, juggling Emma's school schedule with Jessica's treatment schedule. And through it all, Sarah remained. She brought coffee when the hospital cafeteria had closed. She stayed with Emma when Mark needed to speak privately with doctors. She became the bridge between the life they had been living and the uncertain future ahead. One evening, as Jessica slept and Emma colored quietly in the corner of the hospital room, Mark found Sarah in the hallway, staring out the window at the setting sun. The oncologist says the new treatment is showing promise, Mark said, joining her. Her numbers are improving. Sarah smiled, genuine relief washing over her features. That's wonderful news. It is, Mark agreed. But there's something we need to talk about. Sarah tensed. Mark, what I said that night about my feelings, you can forget it. It was inappropriate. And I can't forget it, Mark interrupted. And I don't want to. Sarah turned to face him fully. What are you saying? I'm saying that these past weeks have shown me something I didn't expect. Watching you with Emma, seeing how you've supported Jessica despite everything, I've realized that you've always been there. Even when I thought I was alone. She's my sister, Sarah said simply. And Emma is my niece. Of course, I'd be there. It's more than that, Mark insisted. And we both know it. Sarah looked away. This isn't the time, Mark. Jessica is fighting for her life down the hall. And if she wins that fight, what then? Mark pressed. Do we all go back to our separate corners? Do you disappear from our lives again? I don't know, Sarah admitted. I haven't thought that far ahead. Well, I have, Mark said. And I can't imagine a future where you're not part of our lives, part of my life in some way. Before Sarah could respond, a nurse appeared in the hallway. Mr. Wilson, your wife is asking for you. Mark hesitated, caught between the conversation he was having and the woman waiting for him. Well, finish this later, he promised Sarah. Jessica was sitting up when Mark entered, looking more alert than she had in days. Emma had fallen asleep on the small couch in the corner, her coloring book still open on her lap. She refused to go home, Jessica said softly, watching their daughter. Said she needed to stay to make sure you were okay. Mark smiled, pulling a chair closer to the bed. She's stubborn like her mother. Like both her parents, Jessica corrected. She reached for Mark's hand. The doctors just came by. They say the treatment is working better than expected. I know. I just spoke with them. Jessica's eyes searched his. They're talking about remission. Mark. Real lasting remission this time. The hope in her voice was cautious, as if speaking it too loudly might scare it away. Mark squeezed her hand. That's amazing news, Jess. But it doesn't fix everything, does it? She asked. It doesn't erase the last 3 years. Mark was quiet for a moment. No, it doesn't. But maybe it doesn't have to. What do you mean? I mean that we can't go back to who we were before. Too much has happened. I've changed. You've changed. Emma has grown up without you. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I know, and I'll regret that choice for the rest of my life, however long that might be. But that doesn't mean we can't build something new, Mark continued. Something different but still good. What would that even look like? Jessica asked. Mark glanced toward the hallway where Sarah had been standing. I don't know exactly, but I think it includes all of us finding a way forward together. Jessica followed his gaze, understanding dawning in her eyes. Sarah, she whispered. You and Sarah, there is no me and Sarah, Mark clarified. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But there are feelings there that I can't ignore, and I won't lie to you about them. Jessica was quiet for a long moment. I saw it, even before I got sick. The way she looked at you sometimes. The way you two could talk for hours about things I never understood. Jess. No, let me finish. She interrupted. When I asked her to watch over you and Emma, Part of me knew I was being selfish in more ways than one. I was asking her to stay close to the man she cared about, but never close enough to act on those feelings. I was punishing her for loving you by making her your secret guardian. Mark hadn't considered it from that angle before. That's not fair to her. None of this has been fair to anyone, Jessica acknowledged. But maybe now we have a chance to make it right. The conversation was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Sarah stood there, hesitant to enter. Sorry, I just wanted to check if Emma needed anything before I head out for the night. Jessica beckoned her sister into the room. Come in. We were just talking about you, actually. Sarah's eyes widened slightly as she looked between Mark and Jessica. Oh, about how much we owe you. Jessica clarified. For everything you've done these past 3 years. Sarah shook her head. You don't owe me anything. That's what family does. Family? Jessica repeated thoughtfully. Yes, I suppose that's what we all are now, isn't it? A rather complicated family. The 3 adults fell into silence. The only sound in the room Emma's soft breathing as she slept on, unaware of the shifting dynamics around her. What happens next will surprise you. The journey of healing is never straightforward, and sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the greatest happiness. If you're touched by this story, please like and subscribe for more content that explores the complexities of love, forgiveness, and family. 6 months later, Jessica stood in the backyard of Mark's house, their house now, in a way, watching as Emma chased Bubbles across the lawn. Her hair had grown back, darker and cullier than before. Her body had regained some of its strength, though she knew she would never be exactly as she was before cancer. Need a refill? Sarah appeared beside her, holding out a glass of lemonade. Thanks. Jessica accepted the drink. It's a perfect day for a birthday party, isn't it? Sarah nodded, looking across the yard where Mark was setting up the unicorn-themed decorations for Emma's 6th birthday. She's been talking about nothing else for weeks. I know. I can't believe I'm actually here to see it, Jessica said, emotion thick in her voice. Sarah put an arm around her sister's shoulders. You're here. That's what matters. The arrangement they had settled on was unconventional, to say the least. Jessica had moved into the guest room of Mark's house 3 months ago when she was strong enough to leave the hospital, but still needed daily care. Sarah lived in an apartment 10 minutes away, but spent most of her time at the house helping with Emma and supporting Jessica's recovery. Mark and Jessica were no longer husband and wife in any real sense, but they were co-parents committed to giving Emma stability and love. And Mark and Sarah. Their relationship was evolving slowly, cautiously with Jessica's blessing, but also with the complexity that came from their unusual situation. Do you ever regret coming back? Sarah asked suddenly. It would have been easier to stay away, to let them remember you as you were. Jessica watched as Emma ran to Mark, throwing her arms around his legs in excitement over the unicorn piñata he just hung. Not for a second, she answered honestly. Even with all the complications, all the hard conversations, all the uncertain future ahead, I'd rather have this messy reality than the clean break I thought I was giving them. Sarah squeezed her sister's shoulders. I'm glad because Emma needs her mother, and I need my sister. And Mark, Jessica asked, glancing sideways at Sarah. What does he need? Sarah's cheeks flushed slightly. That's still evolving. You know, I meant what I said in the hospital, Jessica said. I want you both to be happy. However that looks. Before Sarah could respond, Emma came bounding over her face alike with excitement. Mommy. Aunt Sarah. Daddy says it's time for cake and presents. Jessica knelt down, opening her arms to her daughter. Lead the way, birthday girl. As they gathered around the table, Mark lighting the candles on the unicorn cake, Jessica caught his eye across the flickering flames. There was a warmth there, different from the love they once shared, but no less meaningful. A look that said, asterisk, we made it. Against all odds, we found our way back to each other. Even if it's not the way we expected. Emma closed her eyes tight, making her wish before blowing out all 6 candles in one determined breath. The adults cheered, and Mark began cutting slices of cake. What did you wish for, sweetie? Sarah asked, helping to serve. Emma shook her head solemnly. Can't tell, or it won't come true. but I think it's already starting to. Later that night, after the party had ended and Emma was tucked in bed with her new toys, the three adults sat on the back porch watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "I have something to tell you both," Jessica said, breaking the comfortable silence. "The doctors called yesterday with my latest scan results." Mark and Sarah both tensed, turning to her with identical expressions of concern. Jessica smiled, still in remission. "And they're officially moving me from guarded to optimistic about my long-term prognosis." The relief was palpable as Mark reached for her hand on one side and Sarah's on the other. "That's the best birthday present Emma could have asked for," he said. "Speaking of presents," Jessica continued, "I've been thinking about what's next for all of us." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. "I mean that I'm getting stronger every day. Soon I won't need to live here for medical reasons." Jessica took a deep breath. "I've been looking at apartments nearby. Close enough to see Emma every day, but giving everyone some space to figure out what comes next." Mark frowned. "Jess, you don't have to." "I do," she interrupted gently. "Not just for you and Sarah, but for me too. I need to learn who I am now, after everything. And Emma needs to see that her parents can love her completely, even if we live in different houses." Sarah was quiet, processing this unexpected development. "Are you sure?" Jessica nodded. "More sure than I've been about anything in a long time." She looked between them. "We've been given a second chance. All of us. And I don't want to waste it trying to force our lives back into old patterns that don't fit anymore." As the night deepened around them, the three sat together, connected by hands and history and hope for the future. It wasn't a conventional happy ending, but it was theirs, hard-won and honest. Emma's birthday wish, whispered in the moment before she blew out her candles, had been simple. "I wish for my family to stay together forever." And in her 6-year-old wisdom, perhaps she understood something the adults were still learning. That together didn't have to mean what it once did. It could mean something new, something stronger, forged in the fire of loss and recovery. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that explores the beautiful complexity of human relationships. Remember that sometimes the most painful chapters of our lives can lead to the most unexpected blessings, and that family in all its forms is worth fighting for. 3 years later, on Emma's 9th birthday, Mark stood in the kitchen of his home putting the finishing touches on another unicorn cake. A tradition that had continued despite Emma's insistence that she was too old for baby stuff now. "Need any help?" Sarah asked, coming up behind him and wrapping her arms around his waist. The diamond ring on her left hand caught the light as she reached around him to swipe a bit of frosting. "Hey, that's for the birthday girl," Mark protested, turning to face his wife of 6 months. Sarah grinned. "She won't miss one tiny taste." The doorbell rang and Emma's voice called out from the living room. "I'll get it. It's probably Mom." Mark and Sarah followed Emma to the door where Jessica stood with a large wrapped package and a bright smile. Her hair had grown long again, though she kept it shorter than before her illness. 5 years cancer-free had restored much of her health, though she would always carry the physical and emotional scars of her journey. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." Jessica hugged Emma tightly before nodding to Mark and Sarah. "The place looks great. Unicorns forever, huh?" Emma rolled her eyes dramatically. "Dad insists. I wanted a science theme this year." "Well, I brought something that might satisfy both requirements," Jessica said, handing over the package. "Go ahead, open it." Emma tore into the wrapping paper to reveal a high-powered telescope. "No way. This is amazing. Your mom and I went in on it together," Sarah explained. "She found it. I helped assemble it last night at her place." The easy cooperation between Jessica and Sarah had been the most unexpected development of all. What had begun as a complicated triangle of guilt, obligation, and unspoken feelings had evolved into a genuine friendship between the two sisters, strengthened by their shared love for Emma and their commitment to creating a healthy extended family. Jessica had found her own path forward, too. She now worked as a patient advocate at the same hospital where she had received treatment, using her experience to help others navigate the overwhelming world of cancer diagnosis and care. She dated occasionally, though she hadn't yet found a relationship that felt right. The party guests should be arriving soon, Mark said, checking his watch. Emma, why don't you help your mom set up the telescope in the backyard while Sarah and I finish the food? As Emma eagerly pulled Jessica toward the back door, chattering about the constellations she wanted to see later that night, Mark turned to Sarah. Did you tell her yet? He asked quietly. Sarah shook her head. Not yet. I thought maybe after the party when it's just family. Mark placed a hand gently on Sarah's still flat stomach. She's going to be thrilled to be a big cousin. I hope so. Sarah bit her lip. It's a big change. A good change, Mark assured her. The best kind. Later that night, after Emma's friends had gone home, and the three adults sat in the backyard watching Emma explore the night sky with her new telescope, Sarah cleared her throat nervously. Emma, we have one more birthday surprise for you, she called. Can you come here for a minute? Emma reluctantly tore herself away from the telescope. Is it another present? Sort of, Mark said, putting his arm around Sarah. It's something that won't arrive for about 7 more months. Emma looked confused for a moment before her eyes widened. Wait, are you? Sarah nodded, smiling. You're going to be a big cousin. Your Aunt Sarah and Dad are having a baby. Emma squealed with delight, throwing her arms around Sarah. That's the best birthday present ever. Jessica moved to join them, genuine happiness in her eyes as she hugged Sarah. Congratulations, sis. You're going to be an amazing mother. As the 4 of them stood together under the stars, this unconventional, hard-won family, Mark reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From that rainy night, when Sarah appeared on his doorstep with a truth that changed everything to this moment of new beginnings and continued healing, none of it had been easy. There had been tears and arguments, therapy sessions, and difficult conversations. There had been days when the pain of the past seemed too heavy to bear, and nights when the uncertainty of the future kept them all awake. But there had also been forgiveness, understanding, growth, and most importantly, there had been love. Not the simple, uncomplicated love of fairy tales, but the messy, resilient love of real life. The kind that breaks and heals and transforms into something stronger than before. As Emma returned to her telescope, pointing out constellations to her mother, Mark squeezed Sarah's hand. Thank you, he whispered.
For what? She asked.
For knocking on my door that night. For being brave enough to tell the truth. For staying even when it was complicated. Sarah leaned her head against his shoulder. Some doors once open change everything. And in the quiet backyard, under a canopy of stars, the family that had been broken and rebuilt continued writing their story. Not the one they had originally planned, but perhaps the one they were always meant to live. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that explores the beautiful complexity of human relationships. Remember that sometimes the most painful chapters of our lives can lead to the most unexpected blessings, and that family in all its forms is worth fighting for.